You are live on TCTV Channel 8 and YouTube.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matthew Rebard. I'm the chairman of the Templeton Advisory Committee. This time I would like to call the June 17th, 2021 Advisory Committee meeting to order as of 6:30 p.m. Would you all please join in standing to the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Couple of housekeeping items before we begin. This meeting is being broadcast by Templeton Community Television Channel 8 TCTV and live on the TCTV YouTube stream. I would like to note that any comments made in the YouTube stream will be recorded in the record. We do have a quorum of people in the room this evening, but I would also like to note that as a result of the governor's recent signing of legislation, we are not required to have a quorum in the room. We are now required, through April 1st of 2022, the open meetings such as this are allowed to have a quorum of members, be it either in the room or via telecommunications device, like the Zoom meeting that we have present. So very quickly, I'm going to call the roll for attendance, and then we will continue. Please, when I state your name, please state present, and whether you are in person or virtual via Zoom. Ms. April Cover.
Present in person.
Mr. Wilfred Spring.
Present in person.
Ms. Beverly Bartolomeo.
Alive and well. Beverly Bartolomeo, alive in person. Hey, when I'm dead, you can sit me right here.
Stop it.
You'll always have a quorum.
Mr. Robert May. At current time is absent. Ms. Faith Curcio is absent. We received notification that she was ill and will not be attending this evening. The board is normally 7 members. A quorum is 4. We have a quorum. We may continue with business. First item of business this evening, item 3A, approval of the meeting minutes from May 27th, 2021. I'll accept the motion to accept the meeting minutes as presented.
I'll make
So
the
moved.
move. All
I
right,
have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes from May 27th, 2021 as presented. Is there any discussion on said motion? Is there any discussion on said motion? Hearing none, because under normal circumstances right now, we might have members that are on the that would be on the YouTube stream, even though we're all in person now. Everything is a roll call vote. So at this time, I will call the roll. Ms. Cover.
Approved.
Mr. Spring.
Yes.
Ms. Bartolomeo.
Yes.
And I am a yes. The motion carries at 6:33 p.m. Item 3B on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from June 3rd, 2021. I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes from June 3rd, 2021. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we go to a roll call vote. Ms. Cover.
Accept.
Mr. Spring.
Yes.
Ms. Bartolomeo.
Yes.
And I am a yes. Motion carries at 6:34 p.m. We move to correspondence. Item, one note to the committee for correspondence. You're going to notice that some of these are old. That is the reason for that being is that the mailbox had not been checked in some time. So the reason for these items is strictly to accept them into the record. Item 4A in correspondence on March 4th, 2021, a communication from Victoria Chartier, the treasurer for the NRSD, certifying the assessments for Templeton and Phillipston for the school year. I'll accept the motion to accept the communication into the record.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to accept the communication into the record. Is there any discussion?
Just for the new members, the law basically says that the treasurer has to take it up for the district, notifying the selectmen and the advisory committee for both communities. And this correspondence shows the amount of money per se, that for each community. And it's the certified number. They may certify more than one, so I'm not gonna talk about that any more than that.
Thank you, Mr. Spring. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I move to a roll call vote. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes,
Ms. Bartolomeo?
Yes,
And I am a yes. The motion passes at 6:35 PM. Item 4B, the correspondence from March 18th, 2021 from Victoria Chartier, the NRSD treasurer, certifying the reduction of the assessments for Templeton and Phillipston due to a one-time offset of ESSER grant funds. I'll entertain a motion to accept it into the record.
so moved.
I have a second.
yes,
I have a motion and a second to accept the communication into the record. Is there any discussion? Mr. Spring, would you like to comment on that as well? or-
I already did. The
Okay,
ESSER funds are, or have been discussed at the selectmen's meeting. I'm not gonna go into it.
okay.
And we don't necessarily agree with the use of one-time funds, but that's another issue.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion?
No.
Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes,
Ms. Bartolomeo?
yes,
And I am a yes. Motion carries at 6:36 PM. Item 4C, dated April 27th, 2021, a letter from former member Debra Wilder, resignation from the advisory committee. I'll accept the motion to enter it into the record.
so moved.
Do I have a second?
yes,
Yes.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
no,
Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes,
Ms. Bartolomeo?
yes,
And I am a yes. Motion carries at 6:37 PM. Item 4D, a communication on April 29th, 2021 from Thomas Smith, former member and chairman of the advisory committee, tendering his resignation. I'll accept the motion to enter it into the record.
so moved.
I have a second.
yes,
I have a motion and a second to enter this into the record. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes,
Ms. Bartolomeo?
yes,
And I am a yes. Motion carries at 6:37 PM. Item 4E, on June 6th, 2021, from CPC Chairman John Henshaw, communication regarding inquiry from the May 27th, 2021 Advisory Committee meeting. I will read the communication. Hello, Matt. When a project is completed, the CPC votes to close it out. Any remaining funds revert back to the appropriate sources, i.e. whether a designated CPA fund or undesignated reserve. We do have some older projects in the books and we'll review them. The standard grant award agreement indicates a project can be closed within 3 years of the award. We try to work with the project proponents to facilitate the completion of the project, but will provide an update. Regards, John Henshaw. The question was regarding the CPC's budgets on page 6 and 7 of the April 2001 budget versus actual. We have funds on the books of the commission that dated back to special town meeting in 2010, special town meeting in 2015, and annual town meeting in 2016. It was requested the chairperson was for the CPC to provide plans for execution on the projects in the books with emphasis on those older projects. And if they are not to be executed or are completed, please provide plans for releasing funds back to the town. I'll entertain a motion to accept the communication to the record.
so moved.
Do I have a second?
yes,
I have a motion and a second to accept the communication of Mr. Henshaw to the record. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll move to a roll call vote. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes,
Ms. Bartolomeo?
yes,
And I am a yes. Motion carries at 6:39 PM. Item 4F, correspondence from, on June 14th, 2021, from Adam Lamontagne, the town administrator, response to multiple items from the May 27th, 2021 meeting. I'll entertain a motion to table this until to table this until discussion.
so moved.
And do I have a second?
yes,
Motion and second to move Adam Lamantagne's communication to discussion. Is there any discussion on said motion? Hearing none, a roll call vote. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes,
Ms. Bartolomeo?
Yes.
And I am a yes. That motion carries at 6:39 PM. Next item on tonight's agenda is community reorganization for fiscal year 2022. I would like to note that these appointments will all take effect at the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1, 2022. For nominations, I would also remind the committee that their seconds are not required for nominations. We simply need to nominate the person and the person must accept the nomination.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'd like to
Mr. Spring.
nominate Matt Reebok for
Oh.
chairman.
I'll second that,
I'll accept said nomination. Are there any other nominations for the position of chairperson? Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote. This is a simple yes, no. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes,
Ms. Bartolomeo?
Yes,
And I am a yes. Mr. Matthew Rivard is named chairperson for fiscal year 2022. I will accept nominations for the position of vice chairperson, and at this time, I will nominate Mr. Wilfred Spring.
I'll second that.
Mr. Spring, do you accept that nomination?
yes, I will.
Is there any other nominations for the position of vice chairperson? Hearing none, simple yes, no vote because there's only one nominee, Ms. Cover. Mr. Spring,
Yes,
Ms. Bartolomeo,
Yes,
and I am a yes. Mr. Wilfred Spring is named vice chairperson for 2022. I'll accept nominations for the position of scribe.
look at me.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate April Cover.
Ms. Cover, do you accept the nomination?
Can you explain the position to me?
Basically taking minutes, and if there's any requests for to have communication sent out, that we would draft those, but we would ask you to send them. That's about it.
Yes.
Thank you, my dear.
Ms. Cover has
Save
accepted
that
said nomination. Ms. Cover has accepted the nomination. Is there any other nominations for the position of scribe?
Just so that the scribe, since she's also new on, there's a standard, the format,
Okay.
we'll help you with that. Because you have to actually show who's in the room, and who's absent, et cetera.
I think if you look at the minutes that I presented for those two meetings, that format pretty much covers it, if I remember correctly. So, yeah. All right. Hearing no further nominations, a simple yes, no vote because there's only one nomination. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes,
Ms. Bartolomeo?
Yes,
And I am a yes. Scribe for 2022 fiscal year will be April Cover. There are two standing committees that we need to make appointments to, the Capital Planning Committee and then the NRSD Regional Agreement Amendment Committee. I will, Mr. Adam Lamontagne, the town administrator, is here. If Adam, would you like to take a moment and just explain the responsibilities for those two committees, if you could? Yes, please. Both for the members, and for the people who are watching at home.
Well, first, I want to congratulate the new officers of the advisory committee. First one's the capital planning committee. It's a very important committee because essentially anything that comes through with the department heads has to go through the capital planning committee, be presented to the capital planning committee, has to be over $10,000, and it needs to go through a process. And those items that are recommended from the capital planning committee will then come to the town administrator and the select board and the advisory committee when we go through the budget process. And they are the ones that ultimately decide what moves forward to town meeting and through the vetting process of the advisory committee and the select board. So that's the first one, the capital planning committee. And the regional amendment committee, they've been working for a while now. That's something that we need to work upon and have some kind of agreement finalized with the school district. So that's another very important committee to have folks serve on. So there's a representative from both the select board as well as the advisory committee and to those committees. And I hope you got a member that's interested.
I wouldn't mind doing the capital planning.
Would someone like to make that nomination for capital planning?
I'll nominate the capital planning.
I have a nomination for Beverly Bartolomeo to the Capital Planning Committee. Bev, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Is there any other nominations for Capital Planning Committee? Hearing none, simple yes, no vote. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes,
Ms. Bartolomeo?
Yes,
And I am a yes. Ms. Beverly Bartolomeo will sit as the Advisory Committee's representative to the Capital Planning Committee for fiscal year 2022. Thank you, Bev.
Congratulations.
To the Narragansett Regional School District Regional Agreement Amendment Committee.
I can nominate April Cover.
April, do you accept that nomination?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
no, look at me, can't do that.
Nominate me for the time being until we have some more members, and then we can always change that.
Okay, I nominate Matt Rivard for Narragansett Regional Agreement Amendment Committee.
I'll accept said nomination. Is there any other nominations for the NRSD Regional Amendment Committee? That probably will be ending this year anyways, I believe. Am I correct?
Okay.
Maybe.
Not necessarily, because the last update we got was, it looks like it's going to continue for some time.
Okay.
Yeah, Tim Toth is on it. He said they're going really slow on that.
Are they really? Okay.
I'm a Bob, but Could you just table it till Bob comes back?
I will get into that later in the meeting. Hearing no other nominations, simple yes, no vote, Ms. Cover.
Yes.
Mr. Spring.
Yes.
Ms. Bartolomeo.
Yes.
And I am a yes. I will serve on the NRSD committee until we have some new membership and we can, and we might be able to hand that off at that time.
Congratulations. When
Thank
we
you.
get back to it.
Yeah, you missed, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Lamontagne, for those explanations. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, okay, final item on the committee reorganization is the meeting schedule for 2022. This item was tabled from our June 3rd meeting. It was brought up by April Faith Curcio. So for fiscal year 2021, meeting schedule for the advisory committee was the first and third Thursday of the month at 6:30. And if there was a fifth Thursday occurring in the month, a vote by the committee was required to either hold or cancel that meeting. So we have to determine what we want to meet for the fiscal year 2022. And I'll accept a motion for what we want that to be at this time. I know personally, my personal opinion would be to leave it, and then let me leave your trust in me that if there is nothing or very little on the agenda, and it would be either a no meeting or a 5-minute meeting, that I will cancel.
It's called at the call of the chair.
Yeah, so, and trust me, if the agenda is light and it can be moved to a meeting 2 weeks later, I will be very happy to go ahead and use the call of the chair to cancel a
I'm good
meeting.
with that.
So moved.
Yeah.
So,
On having it continue.
okay, so I have a motion for the meeting schedule to remain as is from fiscal year 2021. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, do I have any discussion on said motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, Ms. Cover.
Yes.
Mr. Spring.
Yes.
Ms. Bartolomeo.
Yes.
And I am a yes. Meeting schedule will remain first and third Thursdays of the month at 6:30 PM. If a fifth Thursday occurs in the month, a vote by the committee will be required to either hold or cancel that meeting. And then at the discretion of the chair will be if a meeting is held, if the agenda is either non-existent or light. Okay, very good. We're actually doing quite well right now. I'm quite impressed. All right, let's go to discussion. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to take off the table the communication from Mr. Lamontagne regarding the questions asked at the May 27th advisory committee. I need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, and I need a second. I have a motion and a second to take from the table the letter from Madame Lamontagne addressing multiple questions presented from the advisory committee in May 27, 2021. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes.
Ms. Bartolomeo?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Motion carries at 6:48 PM. I'll entertain a motion to accept Mr. Lamontagne's letter into the record.
So moved.
So moved. And do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept Mr. Lamontagne's letter into the record. Mr. Lamontagne, please join us at the desk and let's talk about your answers as part of discussion of the motion. If you don't mind, we're going to take this line by line. This way we can go through it. So the first question was regarding and for the public's information. All of this comes from the town budget versus actual document. In this case, it comes from the April version of that document. On page 4, the account number 1,951,953,5351,0000, 2019 Building and Grounds Gilman Waite. There was $10,000 there, and we were looking to know what the situation with that is. Mr. Lamontagne, please be my guest.
Okay, you want me to just read right from here?
You can read right from there, and then any further explanation that you have, please do.
So these dollars were to be expended in conjunction with a similar $10,000 donation from the Narragansett Regional School District and $10,000 from the Recreation Donation Account, were to be used back in the time for a turf sprinkler system, if you will. That appropriation came primarily from the so-called Jerry Trust Fund, which was named after a donor who left the funds to the town for improvements to the facility. The fund was dissolved upon the appropriation of these remaining funds. It would need to be reestablished in some fashion to be appropriated back into it. Because these were used with Jerry funds, it can't be close to free cash. So the failure of the balance of the Gilman Way Improvement Project at town meeting not being approved, we will have to look at a likely scenario which involves the expenditure of these funds to go with the donation that went primarily to it at that time. It's most likely this would occur in fiscal year 2022 upon due consideration of the responsible parties. And we heard a lot of discussion in the past fiscal year on who primarily is in charge of the fields, because we never adopted the Parks Commission statute by town meeting. The maintenance would fall with the select board at this time. Recreation Commission, although they're important, they're more operational. We're working on right now trying to get that cleared up on adopting the statute, hopefully at the fall town meeting, and to get the Parks Commission established there too. Now, whether or not we're going to be able to change some other bylaws and they get a cemetery, parks, and recreation commission, that will be determined. And at that point, the select board would decide on the warrant, and the advisory committee would give their recommendations to town meeting.
Committee members, do you have any questions for Mr. Lamontagne on the
Yes, I
first
do.
item?
I have
Mr. Spring, go
I
ahead.
have a number of things.
I do too.
Okay. Mr. Spring first.
Article
and then Ms. Conlon.
31, capital budget B of 2019. It has nothing to do with contingency about getting money from the school. It is basically taking money for capital purchases and improvements for Gilman Way. The article does not spend anything about any other thing, and I think that this money should be used. There's requirements, and I can't. We can't make you end up doing it, but I think that the selectmen need to take and end up reviewing this and using it for the improvements. And there's been a couple noted. One of them is the fence that needs to be repaired. And I know that your DPW department head has talked about repairing it. There's the money for it. The other was, and this was brought up later on, and even at that time, there was a requirement for the bathrooms to be upgraded. I think it's deplorable to the fact that we have a facility that we have a septic system already in place, accepted by the health agent, and she's here, thank you. And to take and not have facilities at there for any activities is kind of puts the town in a position where it could end up being a health issues per se, because there's only one porta potty over there, and it's by the tennis courts. I verified that yesterday, and I felt that was not sufficient when you had a larger crowd, and especially when you end up having softball or either the high school or other facilities, or even for some of the younger children in there. And I don't like to say they can end up saying only one porta potty instead of having the two bathrooms. And I mean, I would like to take it into, I would like to have you bring that back to, if you want, I can make a motion to recommend that you bring it to the select board if you would like, Mr. Lamontagne.
I think you brought up some good suggestions. The select board's already been looking at Gilman Way and some talks I already have with them, so I don't think we would need a motion.
Okay.
I think you do bring up some good points. I would have to look more into the account in the sense of the donation when it was accepted. So
Yeah, the donation seems to be more in line with the goings on at this last annual town meeting. It was presented later after this actual town meeting.
Mhm.
It was in 19, you know, and I think this is in 19 that is brought up, if I recall correctly, because we do have some documentation showing that, and I think all the members got to see that. There was a document put out, and I believe this got sent to the selectmen as well as the advisory committee with the BVA back in December of 2020. Special articles report that was put out by the accountant.
Mhm.
And I'm just referencing it. And basically, it looked like, let's see, let me go actually to that particular one. Go Gilman Way, Article 31, annual town meeting, 5/19/18. Excuse me, that was in my era. It wasn't 19, it was 18. So that was long before this process that happened. So it says unknown recreation department funds, which means, and I take that from the accountant that she didn't know what it was here for. That's being left up to right now because we don't have a recreation committee to the selectmen.
Yeah, and I think, to your point, a lot of the issues with that Gilman Way project going back to annual town meeting was more over the process of the who has responsibility over that project. And I did have a conversation with a couple of the select board members in regards to that Gilman Way project.
Yeah.
There's certainly a need to move forward with it, and I think the concerns were more of who should have been presenting the project. And it seemed like more of the frustration was over the irrigation system itself.
Right.
And I think the townsfolk had some hesitation of approving that portion of the
It's a
project.
good thing.
Yeah, well, so I mean, what we'll do is we'll go back to the drawing board, the select board, and I will discuss it and
Yeah.
take it from there.
Yeah, some of the other improvements, I think, at least I got the feeling from some of the people at annual town meeting that they would have liked to see those things second, and there was money there. I mean, I'm upset that since 18, we have not used that money, and it was allocated.
Yeah.
It has slipped through the cracks here, and it has to be used for that particular field.
When you have new people and they don't know that what these accounts are for, that happens. He's new, he wouldn't know that, there's no way.
I mean, I think that was before you even came on board in 18, so I mean, that's
Yeah, it was before my time.
that's something that you were not aware of, and luckily, I don't know why this document was created. It was, like I said, it was created and sent out in December of 2020, and it's dated November 30th, 2020. So, I mean, there's some other things on here that we'll talk about also as they come up, Adam, and to your responses, just to help out with the understanding of what's going on.
Thank
Anything
you.
else, Mr. Stern?
No, I mean, I think I covered everything, and I'd like to take and end up seeing those things done at Gilman, and I think that I got a lot of people that I've talked to that feel the same way. Is if we got the money, why haven't we spent it in 2018? That's really the question, and I think we owe that to the citizens to take and end up making that happen and make some improvements over there.
The money's already in the books. Yeah.
It's already there for the use since 18.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good thing that we were able to take and do that. The bad thing is that we didn't act on it.
Mhm.
Thank you, Will.
You got a question?
Just a point of record, we do have a recreation commission. We don't have a parks commission, but we do have a recreation commission. There was just some people appointed to it last week.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Jeff Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. And I'd like to recognize both Mr. Bennett and Ms. Griffiths of the Select Board who are here joining us
Oh,
this
thank you for
evening.
doing that.
So, Ms. Griffiths,
Terry Griffiths, select board. To my knowledge, we have two members on the select board right now. The rest have resigned. I don't know if they need a quorum on that board. It's Joy Tainter, and then I just got off the phone with her. That's why I was late. She's like, "It's not by June 30th, this year's budget, and go." I told that one.
I know nothing about that this week.
So she said, "Tell them we're out swimming when you go."
So does that mean they, and I'll just ask as a question, the two resignations, do they have a quorum now? Or?
That's what I just was
They may
saying.
not.
They need a quorum. No, they only have two women, and they're both going in for.
Oh,
They have
geez.
two appointed, they need two more to have a quorum.
They need,
Well, there's a lot of young people,
What is
And-
that?
Recreation Commission.
and this is important to them, so people need to stand up. You can't, Joy Tainter, she's
She's longstanding on that committee,
Yeah,
let
she's
me
been
tell
there a
you.
long time, and
Thank God.
when you have young people,
God.
they need to contribute. We don't have the kind of government where we can pay people to do all kinds of things.
Mhm.
Just not possible.
Now we gotta put the word out.
Yep.
Yeah.
We just
And-
tried.
and it's not just that board. I mean, even this board, I have an open seat on this board. So,
Yeah.
if you have interest, the interest form is on the town website. Please fill it out and return it to Holly Young, the administrative assistant to the town administrator. and we will get you appointed to the board that you hopefully would like to serve on. So public service announcement completed.
And before Wednesday,
And before Wednesday,
the
oh,
select board meeting.
select board Wednesday, okay, and before Wednesday, so please hurry. Ms. Cover, you had something on this item as well.
I did. I'm just gonna touch base on a couple of things that Will had
Yep.
spoken to. The fence repairs. Again, I feel as though that is a town liability. If it is indeed deeded to the town. That brings up my next point. Is the field actually deeded to the town? Is somebody looking into that? Maybe those funds could be used to clean up that and clarify who actually that was deeded to. Is it the school? Or is it the town? And I'm not surprised to see the school donating $10,000 to it, where that isn't there.
Which
I-
brings up another issue, and
I
I'm sure
think
you're
that
gonna talk
any
about it.
funds should be allocated or dispersed from the town. I think that we need to find out who really owns that field. So I hope that's something that you guys are discussing on the selecting side of it. The other thing is, I do agree that the bathrooms need to be updated. Who is paying the current water bill for that? It's well.
Well,
Okay. And then also, I didn't see a budget for funds coming from the concession or the user fees over there. Where are those funds? Who's controlling those funds?
Well, as far as I know, the concession stand's still not operable, but it's kind of one of those departments where Scott Dill's been kind of managing all that aspect. What we need to do, going to your point back to the deed, the deed's extremely old. It gives preference to Templeton High School. Technically, the town owns the land. The donation to that point, the select board had this discussion, donations would have to be accepted by the select board. That's a process that we really have to work on, and making sure that any donation is accepted by the town. Where that kind of fell through the wayside, if you will.
On that point, did the selectmen accept the 10,000 from the school that you were aware of? Because I looked and I did not find that. I think that's something that has to be addressed. If the school is gonna give money to the town for Gilman as a gift, it's gonna be accepted. I mean, too often we kind of rush into things and we don't follow up as well as we should.
And I can tell you from the point forward, going back, we had this discussion, I believe, 3 or 4 months ago. That was one of the priorities, is to any donation that does come into the town would have to go through the select board. I was just having a discussion with one of the Recreation Commission members. They're talking about setting up a donation account, if you will. And I said, look, it's great if you set it up, but remember, all the donations have to be accepted by the select board.
Yeah, otherwise you have money floating all over. It's not good.
So
Correct.
we don't know if this donation was actually accepted by the select board?
Donation of 10,000.
No, it's there
No.
it's there
Nothing.
on,
Not that I'm aware of, and I go back to the selectmen because I went back and I didn't see that. It's been talked about, but never accepted as far as I know. And I see Mr. Bennett shaking his house. Is that a, no, it hasn't been?
It hasn't been in front of the board. And it was brought up
3 months
a few meetings ago, but it hasn't
Officially been accepted.
come over to us yet.
They may have, since, and that's not in our bailiwick, they may have withdrawn that because of the irrigation thing and not passing it at downtown meeting. So, I mean, somebody needs to take it into, and it's not us, it's you. It's all on yourself and the select board that needs to take and address that. I would just point that out just to.
Yeah, we'll be on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to take and see donations from a financial standpoint, because we're watching them dollars, but I mean, it's not up to us to take and accept it the right way. Yeah, let's do it the right way. Do it the right way.
I think that's overall throughout several different departments.
Yeah.
We need to see those donations being approved.
I have to agree with you.
Well, donations, gifts, the select board just accepted a gift the other evening, so that's a process that will be followed.
Ms. Griffiths, you had your hand raised. Go ahead.
So to my knowledge, when Mr. Dill came before the select board, it was part of the package he was promoting for the sprinkler system. And it came through in Justice, I don't know if you can jog your memory, but it came through capital with that in it. Yes. and none of us questioned it, so,
So it wasn't really accepted.
right, but that's how it came through to us.
Yeah. It slipped through the cracks because it was bundled.
Yes, well, yeah.
We're not the insurance company that does bundling.
Yeah.
Oh, God, don't start advertising, what do you do?
Is there any further discussion on the first item of Mr. Lamantagne's response to 2019 Building and Grounds Gilman Waite?
If I can just jump
Yes,
in
sir.
really quick, just really, because it was mentioned on a recreation Facebook page about the term was used, unsafe fencing. So I'm happy you brought that up because the select board, I had a conversation with a couple of the members. Immediately, we sent our DPW director to go out there and to put taping onto areas that we deemed unsafe. The DPW director did mention the fact that he doesn't feel it's truly unsafe, but it's something that we need to work on. He's looking at alternative ways to fix the fencing that he feels deemed the most to be a liability, if you will.
It's the two bleachers, just they can clarify that that he taped off, because when I was up there, there was tape on those.
Because
Which is probably the right thing, but
yeah, and there was the concern of liability because it was mentioned on a recreation
yeah,
Facebook page.
since he's got the building and grounds, I think he did the right thing.
So we were on that, and when it did come up, we took the proactive measures, and there'll be a issue that we're continue to move forward with. I just wanted to touch on that since April brought that up.
Thank you.
Any other discussion points with regards to the first item, 2019 Building and Grounds Gilman Waite? Okay. Item 2, on page 4 of the BVA, count 1,951, 900, 53, 5341, 0000, Building and Grounds Fire Training Room AC. Mr. Lamontagne.
Most of the work was completed on or around last fall. I had a conversation with Bob Sosik, our DPW director. We still have some ADA improvements that we want to make to that room, and keep in mind also the Green Communities money. I had a kickoff meeting just the other day. We signed a contract because it was over 10,000. Green Communities, thanks to Lori's work, getting all those funds coming into Templeton. This will be all covered by that state grant. We're looking at doing weatherization work at the Templeton Center Fire Station for the windows. That will actually save us money on energy costs as well. So we're making ADA improvements. If you look at the Building and Grounds 5,700 account for funds available there. And then we're going to be doing those. And then once we do that, we want to finish the rest of it. And then we will eventually close this out free cash on the rest of the, some electrical work that still needs to get done.
Just to take a point out, Mr. Lamontagne.
Yes.
That was Article 30, capital budget A for 3,500. There's no mention of ADA compliant. I'd like to think and end up seeing that move forward and then close it. And the ADA to me is a separate issue, and that's not up to us to do it. But I'd like to. We were concerned that that the funds were done in 18 and there was no closure.
Yes.
And we'd like to take and see that happen. If there's extra funds left over, that's a different ballgame. But it didn't appear. I don't think it appeared that it was any money. Let me look on this. I don't want to be incorrect here. Interesting. I don't know how to address this, but I'll talk to it. On this sheet, it says Building and Ground Fire Training AC, Town Meeting 5/19/18, Article 30, which I just said. $58,000 was what was in the article. The budget, and it's different than the article, says 7,000, and this is on the paper that I'm reading, and I didn't make this up, $7,465.89. We've spent $3,065 and $4,489, but it says complete. So the article on that year, it says 3,500. So I spending 3,000 to me completes that thing, and any money's left over, we should probably look at that to they can end up turning back to general fund. I don't understand why it said what it says is the 7,000. I'm only reading what I see.
Again,
Special article report, October 31st, 2020.
And actually, Mr. Spring's looking at November 30th, 2020.
Yeah. I cannot, that's something that has to be looked into. I
Adam,
think.
go ahead.
no, if I can, sometimes when you have an appropriation of X amount of accounts, and let's say one comes in lower, those funds could be moved to the other fund as long as the total appropriation doesn't go over. But what I will do is I will double check on that. Mr. Springs raises a good question, and I'll follow up on that.
Well, my concern here is, I hate to bring this one up also again. The infield groomer was on there. And there was a lot of controversy about the infield groomer for Gilman Way. It was proposed for 10,000. It was spent something like 2,000. And townspeople, when they heard about that, were upset. And I think I know that at least one selectman has brought that up a number of times. And I think this one the same way. We have to be careful because we're going to alienate people. And that's my concern. I'm looking out for the townspeople. I'm here as the financial person looking out for the townspeople. And on these articles, if they're not correct, the dollar amount's not there. I'd like to see that corrected per se on how we end up doing it. The 3,500, I have no question because I voted for that because I saw that it was a need for them to have that, but that they can end up having 7,000, over 7,000 in there as the allotment type is just is not right. I don't like that. I think that you can't be moving around from one account to, one thing to another, even though, and it's broken out in that article for each money's for that. I mean, I don't think that's right when we end up taking monies from one thing and move it to something else, because people looked at this and said, there's so much money that's going to be put to these things. And if it doesn't happen, you're alienating the townspeople when they see that. That's my input. I mean, I can't say any more about that. I'm concerned about that.
I'd like to see projects complete within that fiscal year and then the funds allotted back, whatever's remaining. That would be the wise way to go about it.
Yeah, at least within
That
a
fiscal
year and a half or whatever, a
Sometimes we
reasonable
have
time.
multiple accounts for the same department or the same thing because they don't know the other one exists. I don't know how that happens, but God only knows.
Are there any other comments regarding this particular line item, the fire training room AC?
My plan will be to close that out as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lamontagne.
I mean, I know you have to go to town meeting to take care of that also. And we're coming up on the fall. I think the selectmen will probably agree with you on that.
All right, item 3. On page 4, account 1,951, 953, 5329, 0000, building and grounds mini split AC town hall. This one looks like it's a quick one.
This one's an easy one. It's been on the books far too long, and I just want to close this one out.
Again, I hate to go contrary to you because this is also on the November thing. And basically it was brought up in 2013. And the notation of status is waiting for green community grant to see if it's covered. Is that? And I see the person with the green committee.
Is
Shaking
shaking
their
your
head.
head saying no? Okay,
Not in the first one.
not in the first one.
Because we have 3 disbursements of green communities money. This first disbursement, we went out to bid. We got a contract. Energy Conservation Inc. was the lowest. And before you could get to your second disbursement, you have to expend the monies in the first disbursement. And then you get appropriated your next round of money. And then you have to go out to bid for that. It already looks like we'll be fine to be able to expend these dollars, but we may need an extension to push them out with the state because you have so much time to do it. Lori and I worked on this. She handled getting the money. Now I have to just make sure I go through and procure it properly to make sure we follow all the guidelines by the Inspector General, the law, I should say.
Okay, just as some feedback, to end up taking that 17 for the mini split. I look at that, because I have a mini split. It's a cost savings, and I see the AC in the windows. This would go directly in. It would end up being there all year. You wouldn't have to put them in the windows. You're expending some amount of time by the buildings and grounds people to come in and put them in. 17,000, I think that probably covers at least three rooms, if not more, because mine was more expensive. Of course, you have to go out to bid, so I can't speak to that.
Right.
Mine was probably 1/3 of that to take and end up doing, and I ended up having 3 heads, so I know what that is, and it's. Do we know if we ever got a bid on it to reject it per se? I mean, my feeling is, and we're not the ones that spend the money per se or have to say so, but just as feedback is, I think it's a cost savings that we at least look at for the mini split. I mean, I'm speaking as one member of the advisory to take and end up making that recommendation. I don't know how the other people feel, or
Well,
if they have mini splits.
you can use it for heat
That's
too.
what I was
Right.
gonna say. How
It's
are
heat
we-
In the
and,
spring,
it's heat and
how are
air
we meeting
conditioning.
this building?
oil.
Oil.
So, yeah, I would definitely.
Oil,
it's
oil-based
heat
board,
and-
We have one that does our whole house.
How about this? I'll put it on hold and I'll
Yeah.
let the bring it to the select
Yeah,
board.
look at it.
I think that might
Good
be the
call.
right thing. Let them decide whether they want to go forth with it. I think that would be a good investment. I don't know how many heads, but if they're big enough, you could probably put it out in the hall and do this whole building,
put it out
because they got big
above-
enough heads.
Oh, they put it outside the building.
Yeah.
And.
You could tell I like closing accounts, so whenever I get an opportunity.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but we want to make sure that, we're closing them appropriately as well. If we
If you
can,
if you go to any facility like restaurants, you see this big thing on the wall, it's up there. That's where the AC and heat comes from. The actual heat pump is outside.
and it covers the whole restaurant.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
some cases,
In a lot of cases, yeah.
It's worth
Once
worth
again,
looking at anyway. Change the way you bid it. See what happens.
Yeah, we just need to get some,
and let me tell you, we enjoyed it
All
on the 90-degree days that we had. It was a very comfortable 73 to 74 degrees in my living room, and they're all at the bedroom.
we get Steve's happy with you right now.
And that way they don't make noise either.
Thank you for, bringing that.
Okay.
Any other comments on that particular item?
So I'll bring that to the select board.
Thank you. Item 4,
Yes.
page 4, account 1,951,953,53,57,0000, building and grounds, town common trees. Adam, your response, and then I believe Ms. Bartolomeo would like to go first.
Yeah.
So I had a conversation, you could tell I spoke with Bob Sosa quite a bit when
Yeah.
the questions came in. That's why it was a little bit, I was on my vacation, but when I came back, I said, Bob, I need you to come in here.
Yeah.
These dollars were originally appropriated, I guess, to carry out work identified in a review of the tree conditions at the town common by a certified arborist. DPW director was able to phase out this work, postponing some to a future date. This will be held until the completion of the work as tree conditions dictate. Bob Sosa's plan is to expend the remaining funds to replace trees that were taken down upon completion of that work. We will close this account as well. I'm not sure if any further,
Bev, go ahead.
I spend a lot of time down there. And right next to the Historical Society, Pam and her husband live there. What's his last name? Anyway, Scorco. And we were talking just last week or the week before. He has a huge tree. It's a town tree. It's right on the sidewalk. And we were talking about the trees and the work they need. And he said to me, this thing's rotten all the way down the middle. And whenever I looked at the budget versus actual, I saw, wow, there was so much money sitting there. I'm like, why? I don't know. He doesn't know who to go talk to. So he might have talked to somebody that was working. But the tree needs to come down, we take it down before it lands on somebody or on their car, and then we're liable. Because it's a massive tree, it's beautiful, we'll have to count the rings if we can, if it's not too rotten, then we can. But it's gotta be 300 years old, it's massive,
Where's the tree?
right next to the historical building. The building's here, I have my 2 planters going into the back garden, and he has his driveway, and it's right there, it's huge.
And it's on town property?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, and it's rotting. He said he can take a rod and drive it right down the middle.
That's not
Yikes.
What? You know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in our commons, disgusting. And I really, this has got not to do with it. I think we really need a tree warden, a man with a pesticide license, because we planted little chestnut trees, and in the spring, they're covered with bugs. And the gypsy beetles, Japanese beetles, eat all the leaves off. One of them has already died. Bart and I tried to treat them, but it's really not our place to do that. So there's no sense in spending money on trees if you haven't got somebody. We had a tree warden for years and years and years, and that was his job. You really need somebody that can do that kind of work. I think Bob's got his hands full doing what he's doing. It's worth looking at. But you gotta take another look around.
Oh, if we take a ride out there at
Yeah,
some point and we
yeah.
could go check out that tree, and I could talk to
Yeah.
Bob because he's our tree warden. And
Yeah.
I have to agree with Bev. It seemed that the tree warden position disappeared when we started doing consolidation
And it shouldn't.
of some of the departments, per se, way back then. And again, on this document, I'm just looking at this document, on the article, that year was for 12,500. So I want to take and make sure that people understand what I'm going to say here. On this fall town meeting, as the accountant has this, as there's $4,680.64, and her notation will be spent in April pending COVID-19. So I guess maybe she's had discussions with Bob,
Yeah, but
but this,
COVID-19 shouldn't have stopped somebody in the tree business.
yeah,
You're out in the middle of
I mean, they worked
Common.
through the winter.
you know,
yeah, and that may have been a conversation the accountant had with Mr. Sosa.
In
There's,
defense of, there's a blight that keeps killing the chestnut trees.
No.
Even though those were Chinese chestnut trees.
no, it didn't have blight.
Oh, it's a parasitic, I looked it up because my brother had pointed out to me
Yeah,
a while back, and then I noticed the beautiful chestnut trees a long time ago when we moved into town. It brought me back to my childhood. So, and my brother was saying how they're decimated, and they try to make a comeback because the roots don't die, but it's a
Well, this is
parasite.
something Alan had picked up. Alan had bought 2 of them when he was, did the commons, and he had
Those are
planted them.
Chinese chestnuts.
And one of them, the one that died, I think part of it was getting whacked with the weed whacker down at the base of the tree. Doesn't help it a whole lot. But the beetles really do a number on it.
Yeah, if you look it
Yeah.
up, it's
But
across.
also, they
the
don't
road.
get watered, okay? You plant something, it's a baby. We water them too. I mean, we lug all this water every day and a half. But there's one of them that just didn't make it, the one by the library. So it's too bad. So if you're there's no sense in spending money if you don't have someone that's gonna maintain them, take care of them. Really, they're like a kid. It's like any new plant.
And I know you
Yeah.
know because you have the best tomatoes.
Yes.
I'm trying them, so I know.
Okay.
Awesome on cheeseburgers too.
There you go.
Sorry.
Sorry. Mr. Bennett, go ahead.
Just on that subject, by chance, it was early this morning, last night or early this morning.
Yes.
I forget which probably was dark out, but anyways, I sent an email to Adam about, I was coming home last night from Baldwin Road and a tree, part of the tree fell across. It's one of those trees, it looks
Perfectly
like a
fine.
whole tree,
Mhm.
but when the limb fell over and it was like half the tree went across Baldwin Road and they were there long enough that I turned around and went a different way. But it's hollow, you can go by and see it.
Yeah, the
And
elm
there,
trees do that.
A couple of years ago, there was a tree, similar situation. A limb came down and it took out the power
Mhm.
on my end of the town. So there's these trees
Yeah.
that in those situation where you drive by and it looks all right until one day it just boom.
Just
And
goes.
lucky so far, all it's done is taken out electric power.
Right.
lines. Hasn't hit anybody or a car or anything. But I sent an email to Adam that I wanted to have a discussion with Bob and get some money and there's trees like this all over.
Yeah.
I drive on my end of the town. I'm sure there's other roads, out of the road, all these back roads. We need to get on top of this, like I said, before somebody be walking down the street, it could be anybody.
Yeah.
You know, young, old, whatever, and that tree's gonna come down on them. Or you drive down the road and it's gonna fall on them, and who owns that tree? Oh, yeah.
Town property.
Yeah, 6 feet.
So, and there is laws mandating the inspection of trees annually. It's an old law, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did send an email to the town administrator and I want to get with Bob and get some money and start addressing some of these trees. Because a lot of it is either the highway, if they can't take it down, or there's a lot of them, or they're close to houses, you get a tree guy to come in. But it's not cheap,
Mhm.
but it needs to be done. So it's not like nobody's thinking about it.
Oh, I know
It is-
that. I knew you, I
it's,
know you've been on
But
this.
it's just. you
But
have to
whenever
speak
I
to that.
saw,
had sent them
but
that
what
email this
I
morning.
saw the money in the account and I'm like, holy
To look
smoly.
at that stuff.
So it may be just, it didn't, wires didn't, people don't know who to call.
Mm.
And if they talk to one of the guys that's working, he may not even work for the town. He could be working for a company and goes, and then he goes and then people stand there and go like, it didn't get taken care of.
Well, that's why I didn't want to
They
blow
need
up
to
Jeff's,
know to call
Right.
Adam.
call
He's
me.
your man. Yes.
And to Jeff's point, he did send an email.
Yeah.
If we could go down and check out that tree
I'll
before
take
next
it with
week,
you.
because we're gonna be having a discussion with Mr. Sozik next week, so. That way I could identify the tree and
Yep. I
Bring it
think
up
there's a
to,
couple of them there.
a tree
Yeah.
warden.
Seeing we got money sitting there.
What is the salary range for bringing on a certified arborist?
Well, see, he
Well-
wants an arborist. I'm not sure if we need an arborist. Most towns have a tree warden,
That's what we have.
and the tree warden has a pesticide, usually has a pesticide license. Because a lot of the stuff that you need to use, yeah, you need one, but, and Home Depot carries some pretty potent stuff.
Mm.
Some of that stuff people shouldn't even use,
Mhm.
Right.
you know? Okay, that's good.
Any other comments on building and grounds, town common trees?
No,
I think if we made it clear, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
And
took
I
care of
think
that.
Mr. Lamontagne.
And I'd like to thank everyone for good discussion on all these items thus far. I think we're coming to some good resolutions with regards to these items as we go through them. So thank you everyone thus far for your comments and the good discussion involved. Next three lines that we're going to discuss are, these were overexpended on the April BVA. So we were requesting clarification on these lines. Page 4, line 1,000, 610, 000, 51, 5110, 0000. Library employee support.
This was an expenditure that was applied to the wrong account. It's been since reclassified at my discussion with the accountant.
Okay.
And it should be corrected on your latest BBA.
Okay, we're going to review that BVA on our next meeting.
I saw that.
And he saw that, so we're good. Okay.
I verified
Yeah,
that.
we got it out before the 15th. I'm sure you noticed that.
We did
Yeah.
notice that. That was impressive.
I have my copy.
I just wasn't going to add it onto this agenda for fear that the remainder of my committee members would have killed me.
That's a discussion at a later time with the select board and us.
I- I do have a heart. I don't want to see her for 4 hours. Next, is there any discussion on the library employee support line?
No, I don't have.
Okay, next line, 1,700,000, 59, 5925, 0000. Debt short-term interest. This was 38 cents over expended.
And it's been reclassified to the police department.
May I ask, I was just, you and I are probably about to ask the
Yes.
same question. Why the police department?
How can you reclassify it? I don't understand that.
Well, it's a 38 cents, and that was to the short-term interest to the police department project, so it's just been reclassified to the police department's budget,
You can do that?
as far as I know. I don't see any.
Because the short-term debt is, we've actually voted for that money. We didn't vote to take it end up, to transfer of monies at this time of the year, end of year transfers per se. And I don't know if you can do it on debt. Mr. Bennett, can we do it on debt? I know we can do it on other stuff. The more than that,
You can now, since the Municipal Modernization Act, the only limitation, the only thing that you can't do.
school,
Without the light money, without the light board say so, and the schools, everything else, like it used to be, you couldn't touch health insurance, now you can.
So everything else is fair game with those couple of exceptions.
I would have preferred to take and see that as a end of year transfer. I mean, let's do it right. I know it's small, but let's do it right.
Well, that
Not
wasn't,
just a
I don't
paper
think it was
push.
his decision back.
And all of a sudden, we find out that if the auditors catch it, we would get. And for 38 cents, they may not, but still not right.
I don't think it was Adam's decision.
I just asked a question.
Yeah.
I-
Okay, you
That's what
didn't
I
give
heard.
the answer, so we may find out in the end. Will's right. Okay,
Any other comments on the debt short-term interest? No. Highway Improvement Fund, Chapter 90 expenses.
So this one, I gave you quite a bit of information. This is one of those grants where we, every year, with almost every grant we receive, especially this one, because it's Chapter 90, upon receipt of the grant documents, the town is able to spend the money in anticipation of the funds. The state notifies us of how much we're actually getting. You see here, Bob done a tremendous job in getting more roads accepted, because basically the way Chapter 90 works, it's based on your accepted town roads and your population. So Bob did spend quite a bit of time. It added another $28,000 a year to our Chapter 90 we get in. And on your supplemental paperwork I brought to you, you could see his
Exhibit B, I believe.
Exhibit B, that is correct, Mr. Chairman. And Bob has his memorandum there. And then if you flip to the next page, his total available is with that new fiscal year 22, 362,341. And this is his proposal that the select board signed off on for him to do work for Chapter 90 across the town. So
I don't think we're questioning the fact that the money was expended for Chapter 90. It's just the fact that it was deficit spend. And that's my understanding, is you can't end up, snow and ice is the only one you can deficit spend, as far as I'm concerned. If this one can be deficit spend, I'm not aware of that.
well, what's going on is, I can tell you because the paperwork crosses my desk because I got to sign them.
Yep.
Like Orchard Lane project, there's money allocated to that wasn't expended. So Bob has to process the paperwork to get the money back in the account. So the money's coming back in. It's just not technically as hit yet. It needs to go through mass
Okay, so
DOT.
it's a delay in the process of making the paperwork, so when we.
So you see it, but
appears
it's
we spent the money, but the money's coming back.
correct.
Okay,
So when we see the final BVA at the end of June, that will be cleared. And it should be cleared, and we'll be back to black on that.
That's why I want to say it should be cleared,
Should be clear.
but the paperwork's processing, and then, Bob's going to the accountant's sending me paperwork. And by the time it all comes through, it balances out.
But bottom line, it's bottom line, the money's there. It just looks like it isn't right now because of the paperwork processing.
Correct.
Is that what?
Between the
yeah, that's the understanding.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that, because
It drives me crazy seeing all this paperwork from chapter 90 and.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Fair enough.
We shouldn't end up letting it go negative. There should be some type of mechanism so it doesn't appear as a negative number.
Well, the Orchard Lane project made it a little bit more messier this past year too.
Really?
Yeah, because we had to commit so much funds
Yeah,
and we committed chapter 90, so Bob had to utilize that and he couldn't expend that because it was in that project.
tied up.
So once we didn't expend that money, because we used it as a contingency
Yeah.
and it wasn't used, it was able to come back,
It was tied up in the project and we didn't really need that.
fortunately, yes.
Okay, it is what it is. I don't want to see negative numbers, that's all.
So we need
I
to
don't-
watch that at the end of June.
Yes,
Yeah.
the theory is that should be cleared up with the final BVA. But again, that's also dependent on the paperwork. Mr. Bennett, go ahead.
Just a note clarification on the deficit spending. You can deficit spend on snow and ice. You can also, like if a tornado comes through and there's all kinds of trees and stuff
Emergency.
down and they have
Right.
to,
Yeah.
it's a emergency.
Yeah.
You can spend the money even though you don't have it appropriated. A health emergency.
Yeah,
Both
Oh,
not, like we know nothing about that.
You can
Yeah.
deficit spend
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
There's one other, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's.
Extenuating circumstances, basically.
So I just people watching, if they,
Yep.
how'd you spend that? Because I heard it, you can only do, just.
Education.
There's a few that can, there's a few that can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in all honesty, those funds that you talk about make sense, that you should be out.
Technically, you have to notify the
Right.
director of accounts and how you're gonna come up with the money to cover those.
How you're gonna clear the balance. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, very good. Thank you. Is there any other comment on the Highway Improvement Fund? No. All right, account 2539-000-000-54-5420-0000 hospital cottage donations. Mr. Lamontagne.
This is one of those accounts that until I heard of the meeting and I got the question, I didn't even know what hospital cottages were. So I'm gonna be totally honest.
Well done.
I wouldn't expect you to, you have to be in town for a while.
You
But-
have been gone for a long time.
Yeah. Well, then I was aware it was a defunct, and there's this, area of property and what basically is gonna happen when I talk with Bob Sozik about it is he's gonna put up a memory bush or tree and expend the
$375
remaining funds.
for a tree,
What was it, it was three something.
74 something.
Yeah, 374 something. So he's gonna get a nice,
Back to the old drawing board then.
I only have one question. Can we do that? Because we had other funds earmarked for other things. And I know that your predecessor had to go through the state to consolidate that there's, monies for the poor and needy and all of that stuff. And I think doesn't this one fall into that also? You gotta be
I
careful.
don't think you
on
can do what
spending.
you wanna do.
If the money is just for hospital
It's
cottage
that-
and it's no longer
Yeah.
there, maybe
I
we
mean,
should
there's
be
nothing
looking
but
at
it looks
this.
like a field now.
Yeah,
It's like a lawn, it's like a big lawn. There's
but what,
like
if
zero
there was a
matter.
memory dedication, it would be, but I could double check that, but
Yeah.
the way I look at it, it's still in regards to in memory of the hospital cottages but I can look.
Yeah,
let's
but
just
you'd
make
have
sure.
to-
I think we just recommend that you just ensure that we can,
You
ensure
gotta
that you can do that with
I
the
gotta
will
funds
talk
that
I
are
will
there.
put a note, double check.
Yeah.
Talk to the property owners. I don't know who owns it now.
yeah, that's been.
Because that may have gotten sold when that
Well,
new place bought it.
PYC was taken over by another organization from out of state.
Yeah, they're not even on Templeton property, they're in.
Well, I'll have to double check a couple
On
things with Bob.
Winchton.
Yeah, and I think we had a discussion when this other, the advisory had discussion last year when it came up, because Tom is the fire chief.
Yeah, see,
Some of
they're
that-
in, they're
some of
in,
that
they put
property-
their buildings in Winchton.
Some of that property is in Winchton, and so there was a discussion about fire, if there's a fire, who
Yeah.
goes?
Because we're closest.
I mean, some of it is in Templeton, some of it is in Winchton, and that's how close this,
Cause from Winchton, they're like right near Smith Cheese. you know, where Templeton would be so much closer. But
Yeah.
they chose to build their new buildings over the line into
Right.
Winchton.
Yes,
could
but I
have-
believe we are responding to those calls
Are we?
because they're closer, because we're closer.
Yeah, the fire chief has a mutual aid agreement that was signed. I believe the document shows Julie Farrell when she was on the select board with
Yeah.
Regions 7 and 8 or
Could be,
6 and
Could
7.
be.
I have the paperwork back there.
Because PYC, the hospital cottages, the main buildings were in Templeton, but there was one group home that was close, might have been in Winchton.
It is.
Yeah, because we adopted that statute.
Yeah, I
that
think
allows for the
you
fire
need to
chief
look
have
into
mutual aid
that
agreement.
more before you do that.
We gotta be careful on any money we spend, this.
Really.
how
Have the
things go
Attorney
about.
General back over $400.
No, I'll double check. Trust me, I don't wanna.
Yeah, I don't want anybody, any of these old timers keep coming up to me and saying stuff, and I don't want them to come up to me and ask questions about, we're spending money to do this when the property is not really in town because
All right,
people
rolling right
watch,
along.
people watch these meetings.
They do?
Rolling right
Absolutely,
along.
I know.
absolutely.
I'm out there walking the dog. Oh, I don't have the dog, but walking my daughter and I get people going up to me.
You'll have to go in disguise, that's
Yeah.
all.
Wear sunglasses, right?
There you go.
Big hat.
Walking around
and
Baldwinville.
a dress.
Still make eye contact.
Do we have any other questions regarding the hospital cottage donation line? No, okay. Final item for Mr. Lamontagne was the clarification on updates to the codified bylaws. There are currently 7 updates in PDF form updated to the new laws section of the codified bylaws on the town's website. We just would like to have clarification on when these are going to actually be codified into the laws and what the town's doing with regards to that.
Yeah, because if you looked at the advisory bylaw, the old one was there.
Hmm.
And above it, it showed 2 other ones
Hmm.
concerning that. And since we brought it up,
Mhm.
those have disappeared and it's all under the new bylaw. So
Now it's codified.
at least some action was taken because it could, if somebody read the old bylaw and took it to task, it's not there, it's not doing that. Because the bylaw was changed because advisory made some concessions to trying to end up working some issues to, as far as some feedback that we got from the community as well as the selectmen about different things.
Anyway.
So since this was brought up by a couple of the select board members as well, they reached out to me. I did have a conversation with our town clerk, Carol Harris, on how to proceed forward. Fortunately, because this year what we do is with our personnel for the town clerk, because some years, you have less elections than other years.
Yeah.
Fortunately, this year, to keep that level throughout the years, we have extra in our personnel. So I signed a transfer from personnel to $3,200 to purchase of services. So that will allow her the flexibility to get this done.
Excellent. Excellent.
It just worked out timing wise where
That's okay. We're okay with timing. Timing's a good thing sometimes. Is there any other comments with regards to the codification of the laws?
No.
In that case, there is a motion on the table to accept the communication from Mr. Lamontagne answering those questions into the record that has been duly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I will move to a roll call vote to accept. Ms. Cover,
Can I just ask for clarification? on
You may.
something?
go right ahead.
If I accept it, am I accepting article number 1?
We're accepting the entire communication as written. We're accepting the communication as written. Mr. Lamontagne came to discuss discuss the things, and we were able to ask our questions. We're just accepting the communication as written, and the rest of our comments will be in the minutes.
Yes.
Mr. Spring,
Yes.
Ms. Bartolomeo,
Yes.
and I am a yes. The correspondence is accepted into the record. At this time, if the committee is agreeable, I'm going to use the discretion of the chair to hold off on items 6B and C in discussion, Mr. Spring.
Yes.
And I'm going to go to new business so that we can get those items voted on, and then with what time we have left, we can come back. Is that agreeable?
Yep.
All right. Mr. Lamontagne, you're good. If you want to head back, you're all set. And Ms. Wita, you can please come up. We will get to you in one moment after I get through Item 7A, bills to pay. I am going to request that we move and vote these as a group. The Association of Town Finance Committees, I have 3 invoices, 27785, 27786, and 27788, each of which in the amount of $25 for a total of $75. This was webinar registration for 3 members of the advisory committee for a webinar. I have the dates in the original documents. But the reason we have to do this is because this was voted on and approved
In
under,
December.
it was voted on and approved in December. The paperwork never transferred to the town accountant. And as a result, at this time, the previous chairman's signature is null because he is no longer the chairman. So as a result, we have to revote it so that I can place my signature on it so it can be paid.
Yes.
So at this point, I will accept the motion to pay the Association of Town Finance Committees invoices 27785, 27786, and 27788 as presented.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Do I have any discussion on the motion to pay those 3 invoices?
Yep.
Go ahead, sir.
One of the ways that we found out that we had second notices, but we all, every individual person that the invoices went to, that was the first notice. The Association of Town Finances was very patient. They sent out a second notice later on because I was looking for some information. I did talk to Denise Baker over there. She took the time to end up going and checking with her accounting department. So we knew that the paperwork on their end, it might have slipped or whatever, through paperwork, whatever. We just wanted to cover everything. And she said, yes, you still owe it. And that's a black eye on us as
that's
the
embarrassing.
town. I mean, I apologize to her and I sent her in fact, today, and told her that we'd be discussing it today so they can end up making that payment and they should receive it before the end of the year. Oh, our year, not theirs.
Is there any further discussion on the motion to pay those 3 invoices?
I'm embarrassed because when somebody doesn't do their job, it's the town of Templeton, that's like all of us. And this is not acceptable. It really isn't. I don't ever want it to happen again.
And may I assure you that while I sit as chair of this committee, it will not.
Well, that's
I-
the thing,
yeah.
you can say that, but if you, like, how are we gonna, I think we need to put something into place, like a control, so that it's not all falling on you or the vice. I think that as a group, it's something that we all need to pay attention to,
Yeah.
because like on the last committee, you had X amount of people all resign at one time, and that's how it fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
So what are we gonna do? We need to come up with a plan so that this doesn't happen again.
Well, let me, and I'll talk to that to somebody. As you call me, the senior member.
The ranking member.
The old guy.
No.
One of the things, he has a vendor warrant sheet that he has to sign. The process, so that we know that it's taken care of. He sends it in with the invoices that he has received. He keeps a copy of the invoices and the sheet that he's putting into the accountant, so that when we report at the end of the year, we have a record of what we did. And it goes to the accountant, and from the accountant has a process that she takes care of. She puts it on the vendor warrant sheet, and is it weekly or bi-weekly now that the selectmen sign the vendor warrant?
We do our warrants weekly.
Every week?
Can
And then
we all be put on that email to receive those invoices?
Well, these invoices were received physically via the mail.
through
So,
the-
and we pick that up here in the town hall.
Yeah.
So,
And then from the select board, it goes to the treasurer to get paid. So that's basically the process, and I'm sure as a new member, you might not be aware of that, so.
No, I'm not aware of that. That's why. I
But if-
don't know. I'm just trying to think if there should be a better process.
But
so to speak.
if there's mail
From us,
sitting in the
at some point,
mailbox,
yes.
if there's mail sitting in the mailbox and then nobody picks it up, no one notices? Me, I'm nosy. I would say, hey, You didn't pick up your mail.
And in my case, I'll be down here at least once a week checking
Yeah,
the
you
mailbox.
know,
I mean, I don't,
it's just-
I can't
just don't know how
unfortunately-
that happened.
I can't unfortunately
No.
speak for previous boards or previous chairmen. as
And
to what they
all I
do,
can
so.
say is, if it wasn't for my conversation with the administrator saying that there's mail there, I happened to come down to take and talk with him. I picked up the mail. I made our chairman aware of that. You know, we had the discussion on that, and we needed to take care of it. And I left it up to him to follow the process, because he asked me what the process was, and I gave them as the senior member saying, this is the process. You take care of the paperwork, and we save a copy so that when we do our annual report, we can report
Yeah.
what we paid out of our funds,
Yeah.
because it's in a bylaw that
Well,
we have to do that.
wouldn't it make more sense for the accountant to receive the actual invoice, to email it to the committee, have us vote on it and her hang on to it until it's approved and then she pay it? So that way you're not having to come running in and out of here to get the mail, and it's
And-
coming to us in a adequate time frame, and we're all looking at it and not just one person?
Every board gets their own invoices, their own,
But you know
because they
what?
have their own
This-
budget, and they have to go through approval,
This is
and
gonna
then they
be,
give it to
this
her.
is rare though.
Mm.
I mean, all the boards I've been on over the years, and Jeffrey, I'll bet you've been on plenty of them. We never had a problem like this, so I think this is a hiccup.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't happen again. You can't get the mail, call me, I'll come get it, you
Okay,
know, one of those kind of
thank
things.
you.
she's delivering
You know,
While she's
Yeah,
delivering
we're all
tomatoes, I was just
delivering
gonna say.
26 plants in my garden.
Wow.
That says we're gonna deliver tomatoes to the town workers.
I like it. Is there any other comments or concerns regarding paying these bills? And trust me,
Pam.
this is, I firmly believe, as Mr. Spring and Ms. Bartolomeo do, that this is just a hiccup.
Yeah.
It's due to transition from one select, or from one advisory committee to the other. And we're taking care of it now, and we're gonna make sure that this doesn't happen again in the future.
Yep.
Okay?
Sounds like
Any-
a plan.
Any other discussion?
Oh, we're just lucky we caught it.
Yeah.
And it's getting paid. That's the more important thing.
Anybody
Absolutely.
goes to jail, it's you, you're the chairman.
I know. If there's no further discussion, I'll move to a roll call vote. Ms. Cover,
Yeah.
Mr. Spring,
Yes.
Ms. Bartolomeo, and I am a yes.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, a bunch of good deeds.
And I have signed it, and I am leaving it with the town accountant before I leave the building this evening.
How did you make copies for yourself?
I have copies in here. and I
Oh,
also-
all right.
I have copies in here, and I also have.
I should not have doubted our new chairman.
And I
You
also-
have been on the ball right along.
And I have electronic copies on my computer.
Oh, very good.
I'm gonna
I
slide
swear to
that
you,
down.
writing the 2022 report will not be difficult.
Okay.
All right, next item on the agenda is a request from Mr. Adam Lamontagne and Ms. Lori Witta from Developmental Services to increase the electrical inspector revolving fund from $17,500 to $25,000 for fiscal year 2021. I'll accept the motion to approve the increase of the revolving fund.
So moved.
I have a motion to, I have a move. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the increase of the electrical inspector revolving fund from $17,500 to $25,000 for fiscal year 2021. Note of clarification on this and the next item. Per Part 1, Title 7, Chapter 44, Section 53E, 1/2, Administration of the Government, Cities, Towns, and Districts, Municipal Finance Revolving Funds, we are allowed to do this. It is required that 2 approval votes be given for this. One from the advisory committee and one from the select board.
Yes, I have
The
my
law,
I have my law right.
you have your law right there.
Yeah.
I made sure to provide it in the packet this
Yeah,
evening.
you did good.
There is nothing in the law that states who has to vote on this first.
Right.
I was told by Mr. Spring that in previous applications of this, it has been the select board that has voted first.
Yeah.
My personal opinion on this is that I am glad that the advisory committee is voting on this first, for the reason that this board, to my understanding, is not supposed to appropriate funds. If we were to vote second, I feel that it would look like we were appropriating funds.
Yeah, if it was turned down.
So the fact that we're voting on this first, I think, is probably the more appropriate method, because then it leaves it to the select board to vote second, and they can appropriate funds at that point. So I think that the way that this is being done is probably the appropriate method, even though I know that in previous applications, it has been the select board that's voted first. Now that I've said my piece on that, I will open it up to the board for any comments and questions with regards to
You
this.
know there's gonna be.
And
know.
Mr. Spring, go ahead.
I'm gonna get my spanking.
Uh-oh, here we go.
No, it's not you.
For what? It's on me. I
No,
couldn't.
No, it's, no. Let me clarify
Oh,
this.
okay.
Don't take blame before I can end up saying anything.
Don't accept the blame before he gives a chance to give it to you. Okay.
Nice that you want to take the blame, but it's not yours.
Okay.
In looking at the BVA, there's an issue that's got to take and end up being corrected. If I go back a number of months before April, all the way April, May, and June, it shows allocated. And then I'm trying to help you out, by the way.
Okay.
by this
I'm
whole-
listening.
this whole process, because the BVA states allocated for the electrician $26,792.96. It's on the BVA. Ending balance is $11,676.96 with 56% used. You have to take it into really being careful when you read the BVA. And this is my issue with the way the BVA is done. It says electrical inspector, and there's a notation, and it's off to the one side, voted 17.5.
Right.
That's what should be allocated. You can't expect us or the department heads to end up not catching an overage when we get into problems where we're getting to the point where we're exceeding the amount in the revolving fund. I mean, that's the next one also is in the same case, and that was for 12.5. And when I started looking back on all of these, some of the numbers are different from month to month beside. I don't know why. I'm looking to the administrator to end up, squaring that away. We're bringing it up to their attention because it's monies of the town. It gives the wrong impression of what's allocated and what's spent. Because, and I don't want to take and end up pointing fingers or anything, but if you look back in the BVA we got on 5/17, it clearly showed that we spent $19,468. Bad. It's above the
Well, what
amount.
page is that on?
And the account, doing our accounting would have probably caught that. If it was 17 and it got to the point, I would not expect that the accountant would approve that going over the 17.5 or the department heads such as we have here that would catch that. It would already be taken care of much quicker, and we could end up getting rid of an issue on the revolving accounts, and there's all three of them are an issue. And that's my spiel. I gave that to you, Adam, to correct. I don't have an issue with the amount that we're looking to increase. It's the
No.
fact what it says on the BVA, and it's incorrect, period.
Can I ask you to hold so I can give Ms. Witta a chance to give her reasoning for why she's requesting this?
Has passed my submission.
Yeah, so here we go. Here it comes.
All right, so when we were doing and preparing the year before last for this year,
Fiscal year.
I could not have imagined that we would have had as many houses or sales that we have had, and the amount of new houses alone has just totally exceeded what we guessed for. Um, Otherwise, I would have set the limits much higher. And I'm not sure if the people watching understand, it's not a budget item. We're not asking for a transfer from one account to another. This is all, the revolving account is based on the fees that we bring in from electrical permits, plumbing permits, and gas permits. That's how our inspectors are paid. They get a percentage of what we bring in.
I think 75%.
It's actually 80% and 20% goes to the
Well,
town.
I just had
Hmm.
one of our inspectors, I had a chance to talk to him.
Oh, good.
Not this one, but the next one.
One of the two anyway. So, and the reason that I'm asking for the increase, and these are the limits that we had set for fiscal year 22. We needed them in 21.
Good news, bad news. Good news is
Building is
We're
up
busy.
and, yeah,
building is
We're
up.
busy.
We're gonna get more real estate tax coming in.
Yep.
Bad news is
Yes.
that the revolving account was not at the appropriate level.
Yeah.
Correct.
and to your point, there was no way you could have predicted this. It was,
I thought I did.
you
but
thought you did, but
But I
yeah,
didn't.
yeah, exactly. And I see it driving around town. The amount of houses that have gone up are, it's amazing, the amount of building that's been going on in town. So,
Pools.
yeah, I'm guilty of that.
metal
That was one of mine.
buildings Are very popular too right now, and they all require inspections.
Yep.
Well, they've said that the pools, because of COVID,
Mhm.
has been the big item everybody did because they can't travel anywhere.
Yep.
So what do? People spend money putting pools in their yard.
Home improvements.
Yes.
Yep, guilty,
and
Big
all-
time.
all
I mean, you see that in your business.
Oh,
guilty. I slid in right before, I slid into a pool right before COVID hit, and I spoke to my, my installer, who had, 6 months later, and they said they were booking out a year.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. So, yeah, no, I get it. I think that, I hope that we all get it. Does anyone else have any comments or concerns on this?
yeah. No, it is gonna go into.
Yep.
2026.
Mr. Lamontagne, I assume you have the originals here for signature?
I do.
Excellent. If there's
I will
no,
ask one thing,
go ahead.
is that we already did one for what was called cemetery, but it's burials and improvement. And I've talked to the chairman, we don't have that, a copy of that form for our records. And
I could get.
if you can give us that, because the last chairman ended up signing that, and no records were passed on to us after we've been in that would make
We have a
his,
copy from when we sent it to the.
that would make his job easier.
Yeah.
And the same thing with, once the selectmen have signed off on it, is that they can get us a copy.
And actually, and I'll get to it in my other comments, but I'm gonna need some assistance with the annual report this year anyways, because again, nothing was transferred. So I'm probably gonna be reaching out to you and the select board for, for everything that I may need to write the advisory committee's report, because I've only been here for, what, a month and a half, and I didn't get anything
You got
transferred
time.
over.
Well,
So
well,
some of it will be in the minutes, but we'll obviously,
some of that I can help you with.
and you'll help me with some
Because
of
I've
that.
done a number, but it's also in the, believe it or not, we put it in the bylaw as to what the requirements are.
Yeah.
At the very end as to, some of the things that need to take and be put in to the, annual report from this committee. It's very unusual, but we
It's
felt
there.
that that was important to let people know what we have to report on.
Well, in this case, it's gonna be good for me, because that means I can go back and take a look at that bylaw and know what I have to report on, because, Okay.
I have a question.
you, please.
You're stating that nothing's been transferred over to you. Is this, again, a process issue? Should we all be using a town email account, which is actually owned by the town and which they have access to? Heaven forbid somebody were to give up their position.
Please.
Walk away with
When
everything.
Okay, now that you brought up a very good question. The process is for resignations from this committee as well as anything else, is at least we have done it this way in the past. It comes before this committee, as you saw the two resignations. It's voted to accept. It's automatically, because we are appointed per se, we have to give, and I believe this goes for anybody that's elected too. They actually have to submit their resignations to the town clerk, so that she knows what is open. And I'm assuming there's communications between the town clerk and Adam and the select board to make that happen to end up doing appointments that they're aware of. Because the moderator does the appointments for this, as you're aware.
Yeah, I understand that. My question is in regards to information that chairperson may
Needing.
have that needs to be
Yeah.
passed down. How can we prevent this from happening going forward? Again, is it a process issue?
Well, what we, if I can, Mr. Springer,
You may.
Mr. Chair, what we did is because the chair resigned, all the officers resigned. So it left Will as a senior member, the one to work with, and the email, we had some difficulty, but we were able to transition the email eventually over the advisory committee one at the Templeton over, and Will got in and he handled it working with the chair. So there, process-wise, it was a challenge because the officers all getting off at the same time. So like it was mentioned earlier, it was a hiccup. I think could be the answer to what happened.
I think she's worried about the fact that
Paperwork.
communications,
paperwork.
like, there was also, was somewhat of a process, a problem with the emails that I made known. Adam talked to his administrative assistant. She had to get some outside assistant to make some corrections. There's still some corrections that have to be made. I think I brought this up, and I with the chair, and I haven't got into the discussion on that because he should also be on that. And it's forwarded automatically to members, anything that comes to advisory, and it's a distribution list that has to be changed. And our chairman now is gonna have to take and make those changes because some of the old members are still receiving correspondence from advisory committee. So there's some things that have to take place. Does that help in the
Yes, it does help.
understanding that?
Yeah.
So once you
But
get
is
put on
this
the,
process just known or is it something that's written? Like, that's my issue. Like, I see in a lot of departments, in a lot of committees and a lot of boards, you have a lot of policies and procedures, and it's just a known policy and procedure, and there's not actually anything written down. Like, I'll ask a question about something because I couldn't find the answer anywhere.
let me say this. This committee has some policies. And I've been, ever since some past chairmen have done it, I said, I've been complaining about that for the last 3 or 4 years. That they can get them on the website. They haven't been on the website. Only the sheets to end up making the transfers has, it's on there. But the actual policies, which were voted on by this committee back in 13, 14, 15, and 16, are there. As I told the chairman, this has got to be addressed because right now, the only person that probably has copies of all of those, you're looking at it.
Yeah.
Well, I might
And that's-
have some too, though.
She might,
You might have,
God
right,
only knows
yeah,
which box. it's in.
you'd have to look for, but
Yeah.
I have them electronically, you have them, because you were sitting there
Yeah.
when we approved a lot
Yeah.
of those in 15 and 16.
And who is controlling our website right now? Like, what's going on with that? Like, who's making the adjustments? and-
Define website, our particular portion of it, or the entire website?
The entire website. It's a
Okay, that's not us.
But we have two different, people are going all over the place looking for things.
Oh.
There's not anything in one central location.
My executive assistant, Holly Young, controls the website. I have access to the website as well. She's the one that handles, and certain departments have access to their pages. Advisory has access to their page.
Okay.
Usually if, like, the website's it requires training, it's a little complex. You have a cabinet, it's not so easy to navigate if you're not familiar with it. So what Holly will do is she will put stuff up on the webpage for departments, or I know you have access to yours, or Mallory did at one point when you had. So generally, the boards and committees and the departments have control over their own pages. But the overall website is Holly Young has.
Did we eliminate the second one? I know there was two.
We're,
It's still out
we're
there.
working on getting that done too. It's a
Um,
challenge.
What are we looking at as far as a time frame?
I would like to have it done sooner rather than later. I don't have a specific time frame, but I did send an email off to our Civics Plus web provider that we have, and over multiple issues of 404 page errors and other issues that have come to my attention. And unfortunately, sometimes with these websites, they're not so easy when it comes to maintenance. It's a
Also,
challenge
have
that
to
we're,
notify MMA also, because if we changed websites per se, because they have a master listing of all the town websites,
Yeah, everything will go.
because I do a lot
wrong.
of research, instead of me going and trying to take a guess, you know, what they are, they have a list of that, and of course, I haven't looked at ours because I do ours. I look at other towns, but if we have the wrong one, giving them the wrong one, people will go looking at it, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I was confused.
Well, I looked at Hubbardston's website yesterday and it's worse than ours. So guess what?
So we're supposed to feel better about that?
No.
Okay.
no, no,
Both
but
in
it
trouble.
is an ongoing issue that we're working on, and I know Holly's been handling it. I'll talk with her again on it.
I know
Monday.
there's a few people that have been feeding information to him about the actual website, having some problems.
That's the
And-
thing that people go to right off the bat. If
Yeah.
they need anything, if they're new in town.
Yeah.
They need any information that is in one place that young people, me, I look in the telephone book, I got the old one, but no, seriously. laughing. That's what they go to, and if the information's not there, or if you get the wrong one, oh God, you're never land, you know?
And a number of the older people in this community don't have computers or internet access. And I know that some of them have come to me for different information that they can find out. And I've passed them on to the administrator, and he knows who I'm talking about, because I hear about issues every Friday, and I say, go see Adam.
Nice people.
And I
Yes,
send everybody to see Bennett.
Let me at least get the ball rolling on this.
Yeah.
Please send me the electronic copies that you have of the advisory committee policies,
yes.
and I will reach out to Holly Young and have those at least get posted to the advisory committee's webpage.
Thank you.
Some of them are old, and we really need to review those.
Yep.
There's some state documents that should also be on there,
Mhm.
and an update to the Association of Town Finance Handbook.
Mhm.
It's the one that's on there is incorrect. I have a copy of it, the most updated one. But I'm also hearing that
They may update it again this
within the
year.
next year, they're gonna have a new one, so. And I've been given that one to take and download, so I have that information from Ms. Vega.
So let's get that stuff to me.
Yeah.
I'll work with Holly Young to get that stuff on the website. We'll at least start the process there, and then we can start after we get through end of year transfers. So once we get through July, I think we can take one policy a month and go by age.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll take one policy a month, we'll go by age, and we'll start revising these and getting them updated.
I'm glad to hear that, you was the chairman, because I had brought that up multiple times throughout my sitting here, and that was not done.
Yeah, I think one a month is a good rate, and we can, this way we'll get through them and we can get them updated and voted on, and
Follow.
yep, and we will follow them. I can guarantee you that. But let's get back to this. Is there any other comment on the request to increase the electrical inspector revolving fund?
No problem.
No?
No.
In that case, I go to a roll call vote. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes,
Ms. Bartolomeo?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Motion passes 4-0 at 8:14 PM. And I will apply my signature to this document by a vote of 4 yes, 0 no, and 0 absent. Excuse me, 2 absent.
cursive writing, wow.
I was still part of schools when they actually taught that stuff,
I
yes.
was part of that generation also.
Yeah, I was part of the generation where they actually taught that stuff.
Thank you, and I'll give you a
copy once.
Thank you.
Cursive writing,
one of the things that was taught very heavily in my house was learning those certain things. My father and mother both had impressive penmanship, and they impressed it upon their children as well. New business, item 7C, which is from Lori Witta, Town of Templeton Development Services Offices. Request to increase the plumbing and gas inspector revolving account from $12,500 to $20,000 for fiscal year 2021. I'll accept the motion to increase the revolving fund for plumbing and gas inspector as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Now I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on said motion?
No, but I think the plumbing inspector's saying he's only getting 75 and he's supposed to be getting 80.
He does.
I know he
Calculated
does.
it correct in the office.
Ms. Witta, would you like to give the explanation for this as well? It's the same as the previous, I expect.
It is the same as the previous.
Okay. Is there any questions or concerns on this? Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, I go to a roll call vote. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes.
Ms. Bartolomeo?
Yes.
And I am a yes. That motion passes at 8:15 PM. And I will once again take the original copy by a vote of 4 yes, 0 no, and 2 absent.
Thank you so much for your time.
It's really good. that
Thank
we
you
have
for-
these guys doing these jobs, you know.
We're very lucky.
Yes, we have.
Thank you
good
for
guys.
coming and bringing it to us. We greatly appreciate it. And now at this time, and at that time, we now take those 2 orders and we commit them to the select board at their next meeting for their deliberation and signature.
And if you would excuse me, it's my 32nd anniversary. I'm going.
Oh,
Congratulations,
great.
go.
Good night.
Thank you.
Have a
coming.
wonderful evening, Lori. Thank you for coming.
Very much.
Sorry for holding you up as long as we did.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna leave it to the committee. It's 8:15 PM.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take and end up the 2 items about end of year and the financial policy.
Yep.
I'd like to take and end up having those tabled for this evening and done at the July 1st meeting in the sake of time.
I have a motion to table items 6B and 6C under discussion to the meeting on July 1st, 2021. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ms. Cover?
Yes.
Mr. Spring?
Yes.
Ms. Bartolomeo?
Yes.
And I am a yes. That motion carries at 8:17 PM. We move to member comments. I have it in alphabetical order here. I'm going to go with Ms. Bartolomeo first. Bev?
This was a good meeting. It was good to have Adam here so we could bounce some things around. There's only one thing I want. I want more communication between the advisory board and the board of selectmen. I do not like the attitudes that have prevailed. It's not helping the town. We need, Jeffrey and I have talked about this kind of thing. We need cooperation, we need respect, and we need to work together because we're not always gonna, things aren't always gonna be easy. Hopefully, things will come out better than I think they're going to. But we have a good board shaping up and feel good about that. We need some members, if anyone's interested. It doesn't take a whole lot of time and you do contribute. And it's your community, so if you are going to live here, you're gonna spend your money, you should be able to speak up and speak for other people that can't be here. That's how I feel.
Thank you, Bev.
You're welcome.
April?
I think it was a great meeting. I think we got a lot accomplished. Looking forward to things moving forward and seeing things updated and improved. That's it.
Thank you. April? Will?
Let me first of all say that I'm very happy to take a CR newest member. Take participation, that's not always what new members do. And I appreciate that because that's the only way we can end up operating as a committee, is to get input and opinions on anything. And I've always been of the opinion that on this particular committee, everybody should get their opinions out it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to end up agreeing opinions. And we can, on some occasions, I've even said to other members, let's agree to disagree. And that's to me, it's a positive thing to take it into processing. I'd like to take it into thanking our chairman, who has done more than a stellar job. I like the fact that he is very formal, but yes, we are very relaxed on a lot of stuff. You see, we're up here having a little bit of fun at the same time as he's allowed us to. And I mean, I want to take and point that out. And I mean, because he had questions on taking it over the last time about Robert's rules, et cetera, and I ended up saying, well, we have not done a very good job of that in the past. He did bend a little bit for one meeting, and I said, well, I like it the first way, the way you're much formal, because I've watched other communities and they have done it the same way as he has done, especially when I watched the Gardner City Council.
Mhm.
It's always Mr. This, Mr. That. I like that. It shows to me that we're doing formally, and it shows respect also for the members and the fact that they're there. One other thing that the reason I put off one of the discussions on end of year is I've been communicating with Stephen Ellis from Montague concerning the process that was presented to us some time back, and have found different things that, let me just say that it was portrayed one way and they do it a totally different way as to how he's communicated to me. I'm not saying I disagree with the process that the selectmen has approved, and it's the onus has really been on the advisory committee, because I know one of the members at the very end of that, because I watched that meeting again and again to take and make sure that I understood what the selectman was saying at that meeting when we talked about the end of the year transfers and putting it into the financial policy. One member did say that he expected us to take and go back and to have a discussion on the whole process. I know there was some pushback from members, and there was some concerns, and I think the consensus from the advisory committee was to end up actually look at coming to a joint meeting, getting the information, and going back to their own meetings and having a discussion and then voting on it. I know that's not necessarily what was expected we would do, but that's what we did, or what was agreed on. That didn't happen. I can only say that I can only say I'm sorry as the only member there. It was brought up on the side that we should do that, and it was never brought forward. And I wasn't making the agendas, and I can't speak to why it wasn't done. There might have been a good reason why, or a misunderstanding that was what was actually required for us as a committee. So I want to just clarify those particular points, and I look forward to working with our chairman in this coming year. And Bev, if I may, since we're almost a little, since you're just a little younger than me.
Don't make me older than you.
No. I have to agree with her on the fact that in past years, it's been, I've sat here and seen selectmen actually say on different issues, as I'm elected, you're appointed. And I felt as a member that that's not how a select board member should portray their position, because this is an important function. It doesn't end up in doing the same function as theirs, but I mean, it's still an important function. And we actually have a mass general law that requires this community to have an advisory committee.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I'm going to leave it there, Mr. Chairman, and let you speak on whatever you like to.
Thank you, Mr. Spring.
First of all, in my case, I'd like to thank Lori Witta for coming to speak to her items. I'd like to thank Mr. Lamontagne for coming to speak to his items. I'd like to thank Jeff Bennett and Teresa Griffiths of the Select Board for being here this evening and for their comments. So we very much appreciate your insight. I'd like to thank Justice Graves for being here this evening for observing us. A couple of housekeeping issues. So obviously we were in person here tonight, and because when we initially booked the meeting, we were under the impression that we had to be. The governor obviously has changed that. So moving forward, we will go back to Zoom meetings. I will probably still be physically here in town hall, and assuming TCTV is here as well, he's nodding his head, so yes. I will probably still be physically here in town hall, and for me, that's personally just out of convenience because it's going to be easier for me to be here in town hall because I have children that are 4 and 6, and the interruptions are troublesome. So
That's the good part about being old.
Yes.
I may possibly.
I
be
only
here
have a
too, it's
dog.
Convenient for the swinging.
Mhm.
Just better come
Fair enough.
here first.
So, I mean, first of all, I would please continue, I would continue to invite the members of the select board and the rest of the town to please join us here in town hall, and because the input is something that we would like to see. And I would also ask that if there's anybody who is interested in the advisory committee, or any of our boards or committees, like I said earlier in the meeting, the interest form is on the town website. Please submit that interest form to Holly Young, the administrative assistant to the town administrator. We do have one open position on the advisory committee, and I didn't mention this in the beginning of the meeting because the communication came to me inside of the 48-hour window for it to be put on the meeting agenda. But we will actually have a second vacancy in the next coming weeks. I did receive a resignation letter, but that resignation letter will be read on July 1st again, because it came inside of the 48-hour window that I'm required to put an agenda out by state law. So we will have 2 open positions. I would implore anyone who has interest in the advisory committee or any of our committees, please put in the interest form to the town administrative assistant, and let yourself be nominated, or let yourself be nominated, and let's get you onto the boards, and let's get you as a voice for the people of the town. And other than that, I have no other comments. So at this time, I will
Just one other comment.
Yes.
Because I've heard some, and I forgot to take and talk about it. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, that's better.
There's been some questions I've seen on Facebook about what does this committee do, or other committees?
Yeah.
I will be bringing that up because there's policies from other communities, and actually a process that's laid out to all the duties and everything else. I mentioned this a number of years ago. It didn't take hold with the committee per se. There's a number of committees that actually spell out, they have handbooks, and it spells out everything that would happen, or quite a bit of it, which happens. We can't cover everything.
Right, but most of it.
But most of it, what this committee does, and et cetera, and how we operate, and different other stuff. And they reference a lot. It's a lot of work, and I think that when members saw that it was a lot of work, there was a reluctance, because it's a time constraint. And I understand that people volunteer, and if they don't have the time, they can't end up doing it. And it's up to us to try to make that happen.
Well, I think the expectations also aren't clear, and people, sometimes you'll catch me asking questions and you're looking at me like, wow, she really should know the answer to that
No,
question.
no.
But I'm
no.
asking those
I
questions
feel that
because not only am I educating myself, but I'm educating
Everybody out
all
there,
these
yeah.
people
Yes.
out there who are watching us.
That's right.
I mean, we are used to normal legalistic terms and things of that sort, but
Exactly.
some of these people have no clue as to what we're talking about. And if I can clarify anything for anybody
Absolutely.
to make them feel more comfortable walking into a position like this,
Yeah.
that's my ultimate goal.
From time to time, I've done the same thing that you're talking about, just to try to clarify
Explain to people.
on
yeah.
different things that we discuss.
That you and I take for granted, for knowing.
Well, I mean, especially people watching or people that want to get on the committee, it's important that they can end up communicating that as to, hey, this is what this law means, and this is how it works.
It's incredibly educational. You learn so much by doing this job. It's actually the better stepping stone to being a selectman or a lot of the other smaller committees in town, because then you have a good base. It gives you a good base to know how the town works.
Yeah.
It's really, it's
Oh,
enjoyable.
Over time, you'll end up picking up a lot of the stuff which we had. Look, I've been on for a number of years. And I can tell you right now, there's stuff that I still learn at this particular time.
Oh, it's in there for real estate every single day. It's something new.
Municipal government is one big elephant. And you can't know everything about the elephant. As our administrator probably knows that more than anybody else. He gets beat up on all cases. I'll make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman, because I took up some of your.
And I'll second it.
I have a motion to adjourn in a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Ms. Cover,
Yes.
Mr. Spring.
Yes.
Ms. Bartolomeo.
Yes.
And I am a yes. We are adjourned at 8:31 PM.
I'll eat my cold pizza for supper.
You can hang on. My wife